Well, thank you all for coming. Looking out on the audience, I see a lot of people from different faith traditions and some from none. And you're all welcome in this church like any church, I hope. Before we get started, I want to thank our hosts from United Presbyterian. And in a minute, you're going to hear from their pastor, Reverend Dr. Brandon Lewis. I also want to thank the co-sponsoring churches, which are Albany Mennonite and St. Anne Orthodox in Lewisburg, and First Christian Church across the street. So with that, I give you Reverend Dr. Brandon Lewis to give us the opening prayer.
Good afternoon and welcome again, and let us begin this time together this afternoon with a word of prayer. Let us pray. The life of the world is a joy and treasure, and we pause this day, God, to acknowledge you as the one who creates and holds our lives. You from whom every family on earth derives its name. You from whom all blessings flow. And we offer our thanks for the hope and renewal that you bring to this world, to our communities, and to our lives. In our time together this afternoon, we ask for your Spirit to open our eyes to see each other, to see the world in new ways. Open our hearts to love as we walk this journey together with our friends near and far, with the stranger on the way, and to the enemy perhaps in the way, so that we might become living beatitudes for Christ's sake. We pray all this in the name of the one in whom representatives of every tongue, tribe, and nation find their worth and their home. Amen.
Thank you, Brandon. We're going to start with a short video clip. Which will start any second now. It's from a longer sermon called Sermon to the West by Munter Itzhak, who some of you may
يا رب
know.
قدسنا في حقك كلامك هو حق لتكن أقوال فمي وأفكار قلبي مرضية أمامك يا رب صخرتنا وولينا آمين. My name is Munter Ishaq. I am a Palestinian pastor from Bethlehem, a follower of Jesus Christ. Many people are surprised to know that Palestinian Christians still exist. But it should be surprising if we didn't, because this is where it all began. Bethlehem is the birthplace of Jesus. Jerusalem is the city of the resurrection and the first church. I was born in Bethlehem and I grew up in a town called Beit Sahur, also known as the Shepherd's Field, the site where the shepherds heard the angels singing, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace among those with whom he is pleased." And as Palestinian Christians, we have been preserving the witness of the gospel, sharing the good news of God's love from the very place where it all started, and continuing the legacy of our ancestors, the shepherds. I want to send this message to our brothers and sisters in Christ around the world. We are one body, we are one church, yet today in Palestine, we as Palestinian Christians feel forgotten. We feel our voices are silenced and ignored. Since October 7, 2023, the world's attention has been on our land. When Hamas attacked military bases and also Israeli thousand villages, and on that day, innocent lives were lost. There was worldwide outrage, anger, and condemnation, and rightly so, especially for the killing and kidnapping of children. But as Palestinians, we wonder, why is it that when Palestinian children are killed or kidnapped, there is little to no condemnation, no widespread outrage. Tens of thousands of Palestinians have been killed, including 20,000 children. 20,000. Many starved to death. Yet the global church remains largely silent or even dismissive of our suffering, sometimes justifying it or calling for violence in response. And when we cry out against these atrocities, we often hear justifications. We're told not to blame Israel for dropping bombs, but to blame Hamas for using human shields, usually without any proof. But think about this. If a serial killer hides in a building and takes children hostages in a city like New York or Chicago, would you destroy the neighborhood? Would you flatten it to eliminate the threat? Gaza is devastated, completely ruined. Does this resemble a war of self-defense? Does it look like precise strikes or the annihilation of an entire people? Israel has dropped more tons of explosive on Gaza than Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined. Would you accept this in your own city? If a terror cell were discovered beneath Notre Dame in Paris, would you let Israel bomb it? Would you stay silent? Yet one of the oldest churches in the world was targeted by Israel. 18 people were killed, including 9 precious children. And the world remains silent. Why? Did we allow theology to blind us to the humanity of our brothers and sisters in Christ? We are traumatized. Where is the mourning? Are we less human? As Palestinian Christians, we believe Israel's motives go beyond eradicating Hamas. It's about vengeance. It's about displacing Palestinians so that Palestinians can never have a state. Listen to the words of Israeli leaders before and during this conflict. The defense minister ordered a siege on Gaza, referring to its people as human animals, with over 1 million children involved. Human animals. Many reports suggest that Israel's actions may amount to genocide by experts, human rights organizations, and even Israeli Jewish scholars.
אנחנו כובשים, מטהרים ונשארים עד להשמדת חמאס. בדרך אנחנו משמידים את כל מה שעוד נשאר מהרצועה, פשוט, כי הכל שם זו עיר טרור אחת גדולה. במסגרת המלחמה צה"ל מניע אוכלוסייה מאזורי הלחימה ולא משאיר אבן על אבן. אני אומר לכם, פשוט תסתכלו על הסרטונים של מה שקורה ברצועת עזה. האוכלוסייה תגיע לדרום הרצועה.
Again, that was Sermon to the West. I encourage people to go home and Google this and watch the rest of it. It's only a 15-minute presentation. It's very powerful, the whole thing. So, in 2009, an ecumenical group of Palestinian Christians got together and produced a document called A Moment of Truth, a word of faith, hope, and love from the heart of Palestinian suffering. Those of you who know the history of this various attacks on Gaza might remember 2009 was when Operation Cast Lead occurred. That was the first of several attacks on Gaza over the years, leading up to the current situation, which, as Reverend Itzhak said, has been labeled a genocide by every international human rights organization, by the UN Special Investigative Committee for the International Court of Justice, which is currently deliberating on whether or not Israel is to declare Israel officially guilty of genocide, and by Israeli human rights groups too. B'Tselem is a premier human rights group in Israel, and Physicians for Human Rights in Israel has also concluded this is a genocide. Now, you're free to disagree with that, and you'd be right to say it hasn't been fully adjudicated. However, if there's even a chance that there's a genocide going on, we should certainly consider that a realistic possibility, given all the experts who've weighed in on it. Then we have a duty to act, whether we're Christians or not. We have a duty to act, and our country has a duty to act under the provisions of the Genocide Convention, which both we and Israel are signatories to. So in November, early November, this group came out with a second document called A Moment of Truth, Faith in a Time of Genocide. And I encourage people to check these out. You can really just look up Kairos documents, and I'm sure they'll come right up to the top. They're a bit involved, but if you want to learn more about it, I encourage you to stick around after the formal presentation and talk to me, because I can tell you how to get more speakers into your own congregations. So, with all that said, sorry for the length of that, I want to introduce Reverend Dr. Alex Awad. He was born and raised in Jerusalem. After he graduated from St. George's High School in East Jerusalem, he studied in Europe before completing his education in the United States. And after returning to Jerusalem, Dr. Awad and his wife Brenda served for 26 years with the General Board of Global Ministries of the United Methodist Church in Israel, Palestine. Did I get that right? Okay. During this time, he was the pastor of the East Jerusalem International Church and taught courses at Bethlehem Bible College, where he served as a faculty member, dean of students, and board member. Dr. Awad is the author of Through the Eyes of the Victims and Palestinian Memories. I think he has copies of both those back there, at least the second one. So Reverend Awad has written numerous articles that call for justice for both Palestinians and Israelis, because there is no lasting peace. Unless it's a, unless it's a just peace for both, for everyone in the region. Dr. Awad and Brenda now live in Eugene, Oregon. They have 3 children and 3 grandchildren. Welcome, Dr. Awad.
Assalamu alaikum. Wow, your Arabic is so good. I'll just continue in Arabic. All right, it's so good to be with you. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you, Pastor, and thank you, Church, for giving us the permission to be here. And thank you, Rick, for organizing all of this. I know it's not easy to organize something like this. You worked very, very hard, and I really appreciate your work. You know, as soon as we stopped the car, somebody said marhaba. You know, the Arabic saying hello. Somebody said marhaba. Wow, then I immediately recognized I have friends here. And then another person said, oh, do you know the author of this book, Munib Yunan? Yeah, Munib Yunan, the bishop, the Lutheran bishop of the Redeemer Church in Bethlehem, was my next door neighbor. So I look, you know, maybe I have many friends here that have met at one time in my life, but it's so good to be with you. Yeah, what I want to do this evening, I want to show a PowerPoint that will help us answer the questions about where we are now in the Middle East, and how did we get here? How did we get to where we are? And where are we going? So this is my outline, just 3 points. Where are we? You know, how did we get here? And where are we going? Or how should we get out from where we are? Now, I may ask for volunteers to read, because it's hard for me to keep turning here and here. So if I say I need a volunteer, just read, okay? All right, so here it is. We are here. What do I mean here? There is a war going on in Iran. That's where we are today. We are in a war. And I say we because the United States is fully now in this war. It's not only Israel. We and Israel are having a war. And actually, as I am talking, we are killing people in Tehran and in other places in Iran. We are killing children, and we are killing men and women, innocent people. We are killing them, and we decided to have this war, and that makes us complicit, you know. I say us because I'm also an American citizen by naturalization. Oh, by the way, I'm glad my wife came with me. I need her encouragement, and she sometimes corrects me when I'm wrong, so keep your eyes open for my mistakes. Thank you. Yeah. All right. So, we are here. How did we get here? How will we find our way out of here? Next. Okay, so we are here. You know, we are now fighting a vicious war in Iran. And one Israeli general said, what we have done in Gaza, we are going to do in Tehran. That's really awful. That's really awful. I mean, Gaza, I believe it was a genocide. It is evil. And to do it again in Tehran, you know, when you don't stop the criminal will do another crime. And that is what is happening. Next. We are here, it's also a war in Israel, and many Israelis are suffering. If you watch your TV, you know that bombs are going on Tel Aviv, on Haifa, and many cities in Israel. Next. It's also a war on Lebanon going on as we are sitting here. You know, the Lebanese villages and towns, and even Beirut, Lebanon, is being bombed. Next. So while we are here, there is a war in Yemen, and people are being bombed and killed in Yemen. And of course, the Yemenis are resisting too. Next. And a war on Gaza, it continues. It's still, you know, there is a ceasefire. Actually, if you read the news, it's a ceasefire from one side. The Palestinians stopped shooting. The Israelis continue to kill and shoot until today. Next. War on the West Bank. You know, these are the Jewish settlers in the West Bank. They are waging war on almost every Palestinian town and village. Munder Ishaq, he was my colleague because we taught together at Bethlehem Bible College. He lives in the Bethlehem area in Beit Sahur, Shepherd's Field. But Bethlehem is surrounded by Israeli settlements, about 40 to 70 of them. Nobody can go in and out. And now every Palestinian village and town is locked by Israeli troops, where people have difficulty now finding food in the West Bank as it used to be in Gaza. Next. Where we are now, the Gulf states are in trouble. This is Dubai. It's being receiving missiles from Iran. Next. Where we are now, next. Okay, Kuwait. And many of the Gulf states, didn't have time to list all of them, but there is a regional war in the Middle East, and many countries are in a mess today as we are sitting here. Next. So that's where we are, but now I want to tell you a little bit about myself, my life, my ministry, my family, and then I'll answer the questions that I asked, but I'm taking a little break here to tell you something about us, Palestinian Christians. Next. Oh, by the way, before next, go back. Can you go back? Okay. I was born in Jerusalem. This is a picture of Jerusalem taken from halfway between Gethsemane and Mount Olives. It's called the Church of the Teardrop, where Jesus stopped on Palm Sunday and he wept over the city. That's why they call it the Teardrop Church. So that is a picture of Jerusalem, and I was born in Jerusalem. Next. Oh, these are my grandparents. And the lady on the extreme right is my grandmother, Nazira. And then her husband is Musa, which is the same as Moses. But what do we know about these people? They are Palestinians, they are Arabs, and they are Christians. All right? That's who they are, Palestinians, Arabs, and Christians. A lot of people in the United States, when I say I'm a Palestinian, fine. Then when I say I'm a Christian, they say, when did you convert from Islam? Well, I'm not a convert from Islam because my ancestors have been Christians, perhaps from the first generation of Christianity. So I just wanted you to know a little bit about our background as Palestinian Arab Christians. Next. So this is where we lived, and I was born in this neighborhood called Musrara. It's a neighborhood outside Damascus Gate. If you know Jerusalem, get out on Damascus Gate, look on the left, and that neighborhood is called Musrara. We lived there until 1948. And then in 1948, the Israelis came and took our neighborhood and pushed us out. And we became refugees in 1948. We became refugees. Next. Yeah, this is my mom and dad. This is their wedding picture. The reason I show this picture, because when you hear about Palestinians, sometimes you hear about them in number. 100 Palestinians were killed today in Gaza. 20 Palestinians were arrested in the West Bank. Numbers, numbers, numbers. But we are really humans. And that's why I show these pictures, to let you know the humanity of the Palestinian people. They are as human as anyone else. No better, no worse. But we are just human like anyone else. Next. And, we were run out of our home in Musrara when we had the Nakba. The Nakba means the catastrophe. It's the disaster that happened to us in 1948. I was only 2 years old when Nakba took place. Next. So, many Palestinians were put on trucks, and they were forced out of their homes, and they went to Jordan, to Syria, to Lebanon, to Egypt, to the Gaza Strip, anywhere but their homes. That happened to 750,000 Palestinians plus. Next. Of course, that was a very tough time, over 750,000 ethnically cleansed. And if you want to read a book about it, the best book about the Nakba is written by a Jewish historian, Ilan Pape. So it's called The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine. Next. It wasn't easy then, and it wasn't easy now. What's happening in Gaza today, what's happening in Tehran today, happened to us in 1948, even to my family. Next. So this is my father, Elias. He was shot and killed in 1948 by an Israeli sniper. He was not a soldier, he was a civilian. He was killed, and he left my mother with 7 children. So imagine, 1948, my mother had 7 children that she has to raise all by herself. Next. And there is my mother. Immediately after her husband was killed, she went to college to study nursing until she became a registered nurse. Of course, to do that, she has to put us, her children, in boarding school. So I was in boarding school when I was only 2.5 years old. And I lived in boarding schools until I graduated from St. George's School in Jerusalem. Next. My mother was a committed Christian, and we followed in her footsteps. Her motto was, never look back, always look forward. Never ask why God, always ask how God. Never harbor hatred in your heart, always forgive. These are the lessons that we learned from Huda Awad, my mother. Now, can you figure out where I am in this picture? I'll make it easy for you. I'm the one with the black hair. All right, no, that didn't help much. Okay, I'm the one on this corner right here, the young little boy here with the black hair, yeah. Okay, but we are thankful for a very strong, committed Christian woman who raised us up in Jerusalem, and she sacrificed so much so that we can go and have good education. Next. So, back to our question. Why are we here? Why are we? And the we is not only Palestinians, but also the Americans, also the people of Iran. Why? Why did we get to where we are today? Well, you can summarize all of this in one word, and that word is Zionism. Zionism. Really, Zionism, in my opinion, is the root evil for all of us in the Middle East, is the root evil. There are all kinds of Zionisms, and there are all kinds of Zionists, and not all Zionists are terrible people, and not every Zionism is terrible. There are different levels or layers of Zionism, okay? So, but there is what you would call secular Zionism, there is Jewish religious Zionism, and there is what we call Christian Zionism. So there are all kinds of Zionism, but at least all Zionists unite over one thing. Next. Okay, who would volunteer to read this? It's harder for me to read from here.
Zionism asserts that Palestine belongs to the Jewish people. Hardline Zionists believe that any means to push the Palestinians out of Palestine are legitimate. Religious Zionists and Christian Zionists believe that God promised the land to the Jews, and therefore God will bless those who help Israel retain the land.
Yeah, so this is Zionism in a nutshell. You know, all Zionists agree that Israel or Palestine or the land between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River, that land should be for the Jewish people. And the hardline Zionists, they don't care what we do to the Palestinians as long as we get them out of that country so that we can have all of Palestine. And and Christian Zionists, of course, some of you are familiar with Christian Zionists who take some Bible verses very literally, and they assume that in order for Christ to come back, then there should be a Jewish state, and they should destroy the Muslim Al-Aqsa Mosque, and then they should rebuild the third temple in place of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. That's Christian Zionism. Next. So Zionism, even before there was a state of Israel, the Zionists were dreaming about ethnically cleansing Palestine. Ben Gurion said, would somebody read this?
Zionism expansionist agenda. After we become a strong force as the result of the creation of the state, we shall abolish, partition, and expand to the whole of Palestine.
So Ben Gurion was saying, you know, we will get strong, then we will, after the partition of Palestine into a Jewish state and a Palestinian state, we will expand to the rest of Palestine, make it all for us, the Jewish people. That was said by the first Prime Minister of Israel, Ben Gurion. Next. So, if you look at this map carefully, you see some dark brown spots. That's the Jewish areas in Palestine in 1947. All the rest, the light brown, is the Palestinian areas. So now somebody can read this because it explains the map. Somebody volunteer?
Palestinians own approximately 87.5% of Palestine, while Jews own 6.6% of the total land mass. The remaining 5.9% was state land as classified under British mandate.
Thank you. So, you know, this is the reality. This is the reality. I mean, Palestinians owned that land. The Jewish people in Palestine were a minority in 1947 and before. That's really next. All right. Then in 1947, Arab-Israeli War. And if you look at this map, all of these dots were Palestinian towns and villages that were either destroyed or depopulated in 1948. And the people were pushed out of their homes, and they went to Jordan, to Syria, to Egypt, to other places. Next. So after 1948, this became the map. Now you have the West Bank, where Palestinians lived, and that joined together to Jordan. It became part of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. And then the rest of the area became Israel, with the exception of the little strip, we call it the Gaza Strip. Next. And then we have the 1967 Arab-Israeli War, where Israel took the West Bank from Jordan, the Gaza Strip, and the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt, and the Golan Heights from Syria. A big problem became bigger, and the number of refugees doubled. Next. So we had many attempts to making peace, and this is one of the attempts where Rabin, Yasser Arafat, and Clinton tried to make peace accord in 1993. You know, it was really a good chance of trying to make peace. You know, it wasn't perfect, but Palestinians accepted it, the Israelis somehow accepted it, but there were so many Israeli radicals that did not like it, and one of them assassinated Rabin. Yeah, Ilan, was his name, Gavir, I think, something like this. He assassinated Rabin. And after him, we had Israeli prime ministers who continued to annex the West Bank. Next. So here is what one of the Israeli leaders, Ariel Sharon, said. Would someone read this, please?
Grab the hilltops. Everyone must move, run, and grab as many hilltops as they can to enlarge the settlements, because everything we take now will stay ours. Everything we don't grab will go to them.
You know, can you imagine the Palestinians seeing their country go away from them, one hilltop after another hilltop after another hilltop? And yeah, because this is the Zionist agenda. Expand, take as much of the Palestinian land as possible before the Palestinians will ever be able to make a Palestinian state. Next. So now I want to skip a lot of history because we can't do all the history in this evening. So I want to go to October 7 and talk a little bit why October 7 happened. Next. Okay, before that, we really need to understand this thing, even before going to October 7. I call it Israel's dilemma. What is Israel's dilemma? Somebody read it, please.
From the river Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea, there are more Palestinians than Israelis.
This is the nightmare of the Israeli people. This is the nightmare of the Israeli people because from the Mediterranean Sea to the Jordan River right now, there are 200,000 more Palestinians than Jews. That makes the Israeli leaders really upset. They couldn't sleep because of that, demography. That's really a problem to them. Next. So, what are the options of Israel when more than half of the population are Palestinians? So, their option is either one state, two states, an apartheid state, or ethnic cleansing. Now, most Israelis don't like a one state because one state means the demolition of the Jewish idea of having a Jewish state in Palestine. You can't have a one state that is non-Jewish or that is Palestinian and Israeli. You can't have that. So Israeli people and Israeli leaders are against the one-state solution. Okay, then let's go to the two-state solution. Most Israeli leaders are also against the two-state solution. Benjamin Netanyahu, for example, he said, Palestinians will never have a state in my watch. And all other Israeli leaders are saying, no way, we'll never allow Palestinians to have a state. Okay, well, the Palestinians are more than half of the population. You don't want them to have a state. So what do we have left? An apartheid state, which is exactly what is happening now in the West Bank. In the West Bank, officially, it is an apartheid state. And some Israelis are not happy with the word apartheid, so they are saying, this is not good. We can't sustain an apartheid state. What we have to do is ethnic cleansing. This is what they tried to do in Gaza during the genocide. They tried to push them to Rafah, and from Rafah they wanted to go to the Sinai Peninsula so that they can empty the Gaza Strip of 2 million Palestinians, but they did not succeed. Egypt would not allow them, Jordan would not allow them, and the other Arab countries would not allow them to have, the ethnic cleansing. So this is why I say this is the Israeli dilemma. What to do with all these Palestinians in the West Bank and in the Gaza Strip? Next. Okay, would someone read this? Again, here, this is the Israeli dilemma.
Most Israelis are against the one-state solution. Israeli leaders are against the two-state solution. This is an Israeli dilemma, a Palestinian nightmare, and a challenge to peacemakers.
All right, you got that? And you see, unless we understand this, it's very hard for us to understand why the Israelis have these policies in the West Bank, why the Israelis did all of the genocide in the Gaza Strip, why the Israelis are trying to silence Iran and having war with Iran, because they want to find a way out of their dilemma. Next. Okay, so October 7 happened. I think of October 7 as a big volcano. And before you have a big volcano, scientists will tell us we have signs, like we have maybe tremors, or maybe we have some lava shooting here, lava shooting there, and then comes the big volcano, which, in my opinion, will happen in October 7. But before that, we have many tremors, and I want to talk about them a little tonight. Next. All right. 2008, 2010, 2012, 2014, 2018, 2021. What happened in all of these years? Wars against Palestinians in Gaza. You see, unless you understand this, it's hard to understand the volcano that took place in October 7. Let's go a little bit more in details. Next. Okay, Gaza was bombed in 2008. Next. I took this picture after I visited Gaza after that bombing in 2008. Next. Gaza bombed in 2012. What do they call it? Operation Pillar of Defense. That's what the Israelis called that mini war. Next. Gaza bombed in 2014. The Israelis call it Operation Protective Edge. Next. Gaza was bombed in 2018. The Israelis call it March of Return. And you can see in this, Palestinians really went to the border unarmed, no weapons, no sticks, no nothing. They went to protest the fact that they are 16 years under blockade in an open prison. The Israelis were not willing to listen. They bombed them. They killed many of them. Next. Gaza bombed in 2021. What do they call it? Guardians of the Wall. Okay, Guardians of the Wall. That's what the Israelis dubbed it. Yeah, what am I trying to say? You know, before October 7, there were many, many tremors, many signs that people in Gaza was sick and tired of living in an open prison, and they want to change their life. And the Israelis were not allowing them to breathe. And that's why October 7 took place. Here again, unless you understand this, you are going to say, oh, these Palestinians are criminals. You know, they are vicious. They love to kill Jews. But you need to understand, yeah, among the Palestinians, there are ugly people and mean people. But in every culture, there is ugly people and mean people. But the Palestinians have been under oppression for 16 years before October 7 took place. Next. So, why? Why are we here again? I'll continue next. I mean, what caused October 7? First of all, I already mentioned it, the siege and the blockade of Gaza for 16 years before October 7. Nothing would go into Gaza or out of Gaza without the permission of the Israeli army. I used to go to Gaza to teach a class at the YMCA in Gaza once a week. And I knew a lot of people in Gaza are nice. Not everybody in Gaza is Hamas. Not everybody in Gaza want to kill Israelis. I would go and teach and come back and nothing happened to me. You know, it was really not, you know, there are lots of good people in Gaza. Not saying that everybody in Gaza is good. Don't misunderstand me. Next. All right. The other factor, what caused October 7, is expansion of settlements in the West Bank. This map shows how Palestine looked like in 1947 and how it continued to shrink. So the shrinking of Palestine really aggravates Palestinians, and that's one factor that led to October 7. Next. And, you know, these settlements in the West Bank dissected the West Bank, and the West Bank is only about 20% of historic Palestine. And that's the only piece of land left for the Palestinians to live in, but the Israelis wanted that for Jewish settlements, and they wanted to find a way to get Palestinians out of the West Bank. Next. And also, one other factor, many Israelis, radicals, right-wing Israelis, will go to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the holiest place for Muslims, and they will desecrate it and will beat Muslim worshippers, and they will do havoc on Muslims in the Al-Aqsa Mosque. That really aggravates, especially the Islamic Muslims in the Gaza Strip. Next. And here is the Al-Aqsa Mosque is the dome that is small, and then the other big dome is called the Dome of the Rock, all right? But these holy shrines for the Muslims were being under attack by far-right Israelis, very conservative Jewish guys who wanted to destroy these buildings and build a third Jewish temple in their place. And they were openly saying it. It wasn't a secret. Next. Here it is. Construction of the third temple will not be an obstacle to peace with Palestinians. Who said that? Netanyahu. Netanyahu said this, that, You can destroy the Islamic temple, build a Jewish temple, and it will not really offend Palestinians at all. I don't know how he can think that way. Next. All right. Another reason for October 7 is really, sorry if you are a lover of Trump, if you are a MAGA here, but it is Donald Trump and his policies towards Palestine. Here you see these evangelical Christians, they are putting their hands on Donald Trump and praying for him. Meanwhile, they are blessing his agenda of exterminating the Palestinians. What kind of Christianity is that? I don't understand. Next. And I cannot read this. I need 7 volunteers. All right. Okay, number 1, go ahead, read. That is Donald Trump. Donald Trump, he recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Continue, or someone else continue. All right, someone else, read.
Declared that the future of Jerusalem is off the negotiating table.
Someone else, read.
Called for the dismantlement of UNRWA and cut over $200 million of the U.S. contribution to the UN agency.
Someone else, please read.
Called for the removal of the refugee issue, the right of return of Palestinian refugees from future negotiations.
All right, someone else read.
Really hard to see, but I think it says cut $25 million from U.S. aid to Palestine. Hospitals, including those of East Jerusalem.
Yes, yes. Believe me, this is only half of the list. I didn't get the whole list. All right? But these are actions that Donald Trump did against the Palestinian people. Why? It is because of Christian Zionists and how the evangelical Christian Zionists are voting for him in a block. And he admitted he had 80% of evangelical votes, and that's how he became the president of the United States. Well, if they vote for him, then he has to, pay back. And he pay back by, this is their agenda. This is what you do to the Palestinians. And he did it for them. Next.
Decided to close the office of the Palestine Liberation Organization in Washington, D.C.
So now there is no representative for the Palestinians in Washington, D.C., and that is all have to do with that big word, Zionism. Christian Zionists, secular Zionists, and Jewish religious Zionists. Next. And here is another reason. Who is this wonderful lady? Do you know her name? Her first name is Miriam, and her last name is, can you read it? Adelson. Who is Miriam Adelson? She is a very generous lady, and she gave Donald Trump so far over $300 million. And she would say, here is $100 million, but this is what you have to do. Here is another $100 million, but this is how you do. And this is another $300 million or $100 million in this. And Donald Trump, for some reason, he loves money. And he will, it's very easy for him to sell Palestine when there are very, very rich Jewish people who are willing to give him this money. This is very sad. I'm an American. I'm proud to be an American, but I'm ashamed when I see our president stoop so low to get Jewish money and then change his policy towards poor people like the Palestinians. Next. All right, and in order to please his Zionist friends and Netanyahu, he started working on a peace accord called the Abraham Peace Accords. This is getting Arab countries from far away from Palestine, like in the Emirates, in Bahrain, in Morocco, to make peace with Israel, skipping the Palestinians. They knew that they don't want to make peace with Palestinians because you can't make peace with people that you are stealing their land. And so he wants to skip them, go to the Arab countries that are very wealthy and make a peace accord with them. Next. So these are the architects of the Abraham peace accords. Next. Okay, would someone read this verse from the Bible?
Justice, and only justice, you shall follow, that you may live and inherit the land that the Lord your God is giving you now.
This is what God told the Jewish people and Christians and all people on earth to do. Do justice. Without justice, they left no hope for Palestinians. And that's why Palestinians revolted in October 7. Next. And so these are the reasons that I listed for the volcano that took place in October 7. Next. And here are the results. This is the starvation in Gaza. Next. Next. Over 75,000 Palestinians killed in the Gaza Strip. Many of them are women and children. If you don't like the word genocide, give me another word to call it. But in my opinion, this is genocide. Next. Will someone read these?
Justifies the killing of children. Over 20,000 children have been killed.
Oh, there is one word missing. The top word should be nothing. Read it again, but use the word nothing.
Nothing justifies the killing of children. Over 20,000 children have been killed.
Next. Someone else read.
90% of all homes, buildings, and businesses in the Gaza Strip were demolished by Israeli forces.
Israeli forces demolished them, but who gave them the bombs? This makes us what? Complicit. Complicit. Yeah. Yeah. Next. Nothing justifies the killing of medical personnel and United Nations workers. At least 600 medics killed and 820 injured. Next. Nothing justifies targeting and killing of journalists. Over 200. Next. All right, someone read this if you can.
What for? In Gaza, ethnic cleansing, turning Gaza into the Riviera of the Middle East. West Bank, full annexation,
Yeah.
preventing a Palestinian state.
Yes. So what's happening on both sides? In the West Bank, there is ethnic cleansing going on. If you don't believe me, go there, and you can see it with your own eyes. In the Gaza Strip now, the Donald Trump, Jared Kushner, and some billionaires, they want to turn the Gaza Strip into the Riviera of the Middle East, or the gambling center in the Middle East. It's shame, really, if they are able to do that. Next. So what are the consequences of Zionism? Okay, let's have some volunteer readers. Go ahead.
Balfour Declaration. The conquest of Palestine in 1948.
The Six-Day War.
West Bank settlements.
The Iraq War.
The Israeli invasions of Lebanon.
The blockade of Gaza,
October 7 and the destruction of Gaza. The war on Iran.
Yeah, so these are really consequences of that word that I put in the front at the beginning. This is the consequences of Zionism, whether it is secular Zionism, whether it is religious Zionism, or whether it is a Christian Zionism. That is all of this is if you notice really, if you read history good, you will know that every time the United States fought with an Arab country, the evangelical Christians were supporting that war. And every time the evangelicals supported the war, it was to stand with Israel because of their Zionistic, understanding and dispensational understanding of prophecy. Next. Unexpected results, maybe a silver lining. And the silver lining is the world now is opening their eyes, and the world is now seeing the consequences of Zionism. Next. Most Americans are against Trump's policies in Israel and in Palestine and in Iran. About 60% of the American people are against Trump's policies in the Middle East. That gives me a little hope. Next. Would someone read this?
Many American Jews are demonstrating against the genocide and the ethnic cleansing.
Yeah, I have a group in Eugene that is advocacy group, and about 1/3 of us are Jewish people. Jewish people are against what is going on in Palestine, in the West Bank, in the Gaza Strip, and now in Iran. Next. Someone read?
90% of all countries recognize Palestinian state.
Next.
Boycott, sanctions, and divestment from companies that support the genocide are only increasing.
Yeah, please, if you can, join the BDS movement. South Africa was able to be restored to democracy, from apartheid to democracy, by something like BDS. Boycott, divestment, and sanctions. We need to do the same thing if you want really an end to the violence in the Middle East. Next. Okay, Palestine, including Gaza, will live again. Will live again. Do you believe in that? No, you don't. Do you believe in that? I do. That's why I do what I'm doing, because I really do believe, and I hope in a better future for all the people, for Israelis and Palestinians in the Middle East. Next. Education, what do we need to do? Educate, advocate, donate. That's what we just remember, these three things. Educate, advocate, and donate. Why? Because there are people, as a result of our wars, there are people starving and they need our help. So donate. Yeah, next. And from my Christian background, I believe God is in control, and therefore I say, regardless whether you are Christian or not, whether you are Muslim or not, whether you are Jewish or not, regardless of your religion or lack of it, please pray. There's a power that is greater than the power of the rulers of this world. God is still in control. Pray for peace and justice. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doc. Is this still on? Just check the batteries of this thing. Am I? Okay. Phew. Thank you, Dr. Awad. Before we go on, I just want to say a few words. I saw some uncomfortable looks out there, and I want to make sure that nobody rushes out the door when we're done with questions and answers, which are going to begin soon. I want to make a couple of notes, maybe that'll help you want to stay afterward. First of all, there are refreshments back there, and we do not want to take them all home. Second of all, we have a donation box for a donation that Reverend Awad started in East Jerusalem to provide relief of various kinds to anybody that's living in the area they serve, adults, children, etc. So we encourage you to make a donation there. And can we show the slide with the donations? Thank you. Or you can use this QR code, or you can make a donation or take a flyer home so that you can make a donation later. Those are the options. So that's another thing. Another thing is Dr. Awad and I will both be back there. I hadn't seen this presentation before, and if anybody feels I misled them when I described it, I did not intend to. So please stay and talk, because everyone is welcome here, wherever you're coming from, whatever your beliefs. We care, again, about a just peace for everyone, and we don't want anybody to be uncomfortable simply coming and talking about the truth. And I wouldn't even say that's absolute. Dr. Awad expressed a lot of opinions. I may disagree with some too, so it's okay. I just want everybody to feel comfortable. Stay as long as you need to. And if you are a Christian and you want to be involved in education and other advocacy, education and advocacy, there's a sign-up sheet back there. I'd like to see how much interest there would be in getting together. And for that matter, I guess it doesn't have to be just Christians, as long as you're comfortable working with a group of Christians. Jewish Voice for Peace takes people who aren't Jewish, so, let's be inclusive. So, let's see what else have we got back there. Oh, yes, I forgot to mention. I said that I can get you speakers from different perspectives. We have Jewish speakers. We have other Palestinian speakers who may not have all the same opinions as Dr. Awad. So, yeah, if you belong to a faith organization, or really any organization, and you want to have a speaker, come back there and talk to me afterward. But now, as I said, it's time for Q&A, and I'm going to call on people. And we have somebody else coming down to get a microphone. Go ahead. If you can be heard, speak loud. Wait for the microphone. That's not loud.
The great number of other Christian groups, sects and organizations and such in Israel and in Jerusalem. How do they feel about the future?
I think if you would go to Catholics, to the Greek Orthodox, to the Armenians, to the Assyrians, all of them are really somewhat concerned about their very existence in the land, and also the future of the holy places in the Holy Land. If you are reading newspapers and magazines that are coming from news that are coming from there, you know that Christian clergy are being spit on in the streets of Jerusalem, regardless of denominations. Even groups of evangelical Christians who support Israel and go to visit the Holy Land, radical Israelis are spitting on them, telling them, Yankee, go home. So it is a very terrible situation. I don't say this to say that every Jewish person in Jerusalem hate Christians and hate, Christianity or other people, but I would say there is a lot of prejudice against Christians by the state of Israel. Yes.
Hi, quick question. This shows my historical ignorance, but what, if any, Arab countries support Palestine or Palestinians?
Why don't Arab countries support Palestine or Palestinians?
Who does, and if not, why not?
Yeah. Well, first of all, actually, Arab countries did support Palestine, and they were defeated by Israel. Jordan, Syria, and Egypt in the Six-Day War, they tried to support the Palestinians, but they were knocked out in the war and they were defeated. So the Arab nations, their heart is with the Palestinians, but the Arab governments now, they don't want to risk, and that's why they are not supporting Israel. They have been bitten in the past, and they have learned their lesson, and they don't want to support the Palestinians today because of the experience of history. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for how to respond to evangelical Christians that quote scripture and think that Zionism is God's will?
Yes. Read my book, chapter 10. Yeah, I have a whole chapter in my book. My book is called Palestinian Memories. But you don't have to, well, you can order my book from Kindle. You know, you can order Palestinian Memories. It may cost you about $9. But chapter 10 have a whole chapter on Christian Zionism, and it's called A Biblical Alternative to Christian Zionism. A biblical alternative. And if you people organize one more session, I'll come here and I'll focus on that. You know, I'll focus on a biblical alternative to Christian Zionism. However, if you do invite me, there is one condition: invite your Zionist, Christian Zionist friend to come. All right. Yes. What you mean, the Presbyterian Conference?
No, in the U.S. Congress.
Oh, in the U.S. Congress. Yeah, well, you know, you cannot read the hearts of these people, you can only read their votes. And they vote for AIPAC money. They don't vote for what is right or what is wrong. So there are genuine Christian Zionists in Congress, but most members of Congress are neither Christians nor Zionists, but they are pragmatists. Whoever give them the money, they'll vote for them. And I would say, get them out of there.
Starting about 3 years ago, I really recognize that whether it's in print media or otherwise, it just seems to me that the term Palestinian and Hamas was used synonymously. And they just kept talking over and over again about Palestinians and grouping them in with Hamas. It's very frustrating. Do you find that?
Yeah, you see, the thing about it, the Palestinians in Gaza had a war. Palestinians against Palestinians. Before, October 7, and much before October 7. And when, you cannot say all Palestinians are Hamas because there are Palestinians who are fighting with Hamas. Yeah, the Palestinian Liberation Organization is totally against Hamas. Mahmoud Abbas and his people in Ramallah are against Hamas. There are many people in Gaza who are against Hamas, who are Palestinians. So yes, not every Palestinian is Hamas, and also not every Hamas is a devil. Yes?
At one point during the talk, you distinguished Israelis and the Israeli leadership, and then also commented on their respective attitudes toward a one-state solution. Could you just reiterate your
Could you
remarks?
put the microphone closer to your mouth and repeat the question again, please?
Yeah, I wanted just to ask you to reiterate your remarks about the respective views of Israelis and the Israeli leadership on a one-state solution?
Yeah, thank you. Well, you know, what I was trying to say, and this is the reality, from the River Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea, in that piece of land, the Israelis call it Israel, we call it Palestine. There are 200,000 more Palestinians than there are Israelis. And believe me, after this war with Iran, it could be many more Israelis left to Europe, so it could be 400,000 or more Palestinians than there are Israelis. The idea is, with that, you know, demographic situation, you can't have one people control another people. I mean, it would be an apartheid state, which is in the West Bank. The Israelis have to decide, are they an apartheid state or are they democracy? If they are a democracy, then they would have to lean to a one-state solution where everyone in that state have equal vote, equal rights, equal privileges. I am in support of the one-state solution, not because I want to destroy a Jewish entity in the Holy Land. It's because I believe it will be better for the Jews to have a one state with the Palestinians than to continue to fight forever. Their children or their grandchildren will continue to die in Palestine if they insist of not giving the Palestinians the right. Yes, there and then there, yeah.
You were 2 years old during El Nakba, and you've witnessed and probably have many contacts there now through the past few years and the devastation of Gaza. And, you know, my only viewpoint has been probably like many of these folks through Western media. And I was interested in you comparing and contrasting the military action that we've seen in the last couple years versus all the other actions to displace and move the Palestinians during your lifetime.
I don't know whether I really understood or heard you right, but make it short.
Okay, I'm sorry. The action since the October 7th event, comparing that to the other actions during your lifetime of the Israeli state against the Palestinian people.
Yeah. Well, October 7, it was awful. Many of us Palestinians grieved with our Israeli brothers and sisters in October 7 for the death of so many innocent Israelis. We are all humans. And when innocent humans suffer, we should all suffer. This is basic. This is how I feel as a Palestinian. It is wrong to kill innocent Jews. But what the Israelis done after October 7, and Munder Ishaq in that little clip, he made it very, very clear. It wasn't only just a revenge. When you destroy 90% of the Gaza Strip, when you kill 30,000 children, when you starve the population, this is more than revenging yourself. This is really trying to totally wipe out the enemy, even the children and the babies and the doctors and the nurses and the teachers and everything in Gaza. It's a crime against humanity that Israel committed, and we supported, the United States government, we supported that. I am ashamed of that.
I'll get up. I don't know. I'm not sure I need this. I used to teach, so I speak loudly at all times. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your presentation. I'm doing that because I feared that I would come here and hear about how the Jews are on their homeland and that it should be given to them. Because I recommend that the United States should give the Jews a homeland, and I think it's California. So, I'm curious, how many of you have been to Palestine? Wow, that's impressive. That's impressive. Because I went there after I lost my oldest son, because he and I had talked about it, and we were going to go to see it for ourselves. And I went with a group called Christian Peace Seekers. And we used to travel around. When I came back, people asked me, what was it like? What was it like? And I almost couldn't speak. I had been brought up in a household that was completely against violence. And I couldn't stay. It was my intention to stay and work because I feared that I would pick up a gun, something that I wouldn't have ever dreamt of in my life. That's how horrible it was. So the only thing that I could say was, from what I've read about slavery in the United States, it was a cakewalk. Slavery was a cakewalk. I actually met people on farms that were not allowed to water their crops, Palestinians, but on the hilltop, a land taken from that farm was watering their grass.
With the swimming pools and all. With swimming pools and everything.
Absolutely. And then I was told, because when I arrived, I just had a backpack or something and it said Christian Peace Seekers, and I was taken off to a room. Apparently I looked like a Palestinian. I also looked like an Indonesian. I did international work. I'm always suspected of being from that country. I look like an Afghan, I mean, you name it. And so we used to walk around and do things, and just to tour and see. And I remember that they said to me, Marisabel, do you not notice, Marisabel is my name, do you not notice that when we get to the checkpoints, which are every few blocks in Palestine, every few blocks, it's harassment, do you not notice that all the machine guns are turned towards you? So you said that you think it's genocide. I just went to a conference the other day, and the man, I mean, I couldn't stand it after a few minutes. He listed all the countries, organizations in the world that call it genocide. There's no discussion. It's a known. And it's apartheid. It's a known. So I thank you deeply for your reasonable, fair, and honest presentation.
I mean, in response to what you say, I want to say to Jewish people who are with us here, or Jewish sympathizers who are with us here, think what is good for Jewish people in the future. There is no path better than the path of peace and reconciliation. If Israel continues to hammer Palestinians on the head, hammer Arabs, hammer Persian in Iran, Israel cannot survive for long. So if you love Israel, call Israel to do peace and justice.
We have time for one more question over here, and then again, there will be more time for questions for those who stay.
Thanks. This might be an uncomfortable topic, but I think we all know that in 2006, Hamas won the elections for the Palestinian Authority, and from that time on, there was really no effective Palestinian authorities. There's a PLO versus Hamas. And I think Hamas has been unjustly demonized. I think that they can be and should be part of the peace process and the reunification of Palestine as a single state. And I just would like your comments on that concept of including Hamas as part of the solution and not just as an outlawed enemy that we all have to hate.
I fully agree with you. I believe Hamas should be included, just like the PLO before it. The PLO for many, many years, Israel and the United States considered the PLO terrorist organization. We would not talk with them, blah, 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 all of that stuff. And then they start opening channels to talk with the PLO. The same thing today. Hamas is made of humans like us. There are good people and there are bad people in Hamas. But I think you have to make peace with your enemies, not with your friends. If Hamas is the enemy, make peace with Hamas. And I believe Hamas can understand that. Yeah.
No, we're done. We ran way over earlier. I'm sorry.
Can I have a last statement?
Oh, certainly you can make another statement, but no more questions.
Yeah. And the statement is, make a group, more than one group, 2 or 3 groups, advocacy groups, and get your voice to Senator Wyden. Senator Wyden is getting a lot of money from AIPAC, and he is voting for every resolution that supports sending weapons and money to Israel. And most people like you in Oregon, they don't like that. So scream in his ears and tell him that it's not fair. We are the people. We need to decide where our money goes, not to kill children in Tehran and in Gaza and in the West Bank, but rather we want our money to make peace between Israel and its neighbors.
Thank you again, Dr. Awad. That's the end of the formal presentation. If you have to go, that's totally understood, but otherwise, I strongly encourage you to stay. Thank you all for coming.